And a guy that we always love to be able to talk to. We feature a lot of his work. I think this is the first conversation that we've been able to ever catch up with Daniel Jeremiah. I know we've referenced his articles many, many times on NFL.com. Daniel Jeremiah, welcome back to T-Town. I hope you're having a great day.
What's going on, guys? How's it going?
Just count down to Alabama football. We started at 245. We're down to 143 days, so we feel like we can almost smell Duke and Alabama and Atlanta before you know it. So we're okay.
Oh man, I was at Duke for their pro day the other day, maybe a week or two ago, and just kind of the innocent question you always ask, which is, "Hey, who you guys open up with?" And then the head always bows, and then they told me. I said, "Oh man, I'm sorry."
Yeah, because there might be some revenge. Nick Saban has been kind of hard on these guys. It's I mean, isn't it kind of funny to you? And you were just here a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's 14-1. You win the SEC. You win the first semifinal, and the world's coming to an end in Tuscaloosa, right?
I mean, barely played a close game the whole year. I mean, it was a dominant football team that just didn't finish it. But yeah, that's where the bar is set. Pretty incredible.
Let me ask you, when you look at this NFL draft, I want to talk to you about Jonah Williams, because there's a lot of people that they critique everything, and certainly we do as well. We're part of the media business. But when you look at Jonah Williams, what do you see his future like in the NFL?
Well, I think he's going to be a guard. I think he's going to kick inside. I think he's going to be a really good player. He's going to be a Pro Bowl player inside. And it's just funny to me. It's all, I guess, perspective or how people want to look at it. But it's like, man, wow, how could you insult him and say he can't play tackle? He's going to play guard. I'm like, we didn't say this. When we were talking about Zach Martin coming out of Notre Dame, there was no offense taken when we said Zach Martin's going to be a guard. He's going to be a really good guard. And sure enough, he's one of the best guards in the NFL. Same thing with Sheriff. When Sheriff was coming out of Iowa, they said, okay, we're going to try you at tackle. He lasted at tackle about a week. And then they moved him to guard, and he's a Pro Bowl guard. Like, I think Jonah Williams is going to be an outstanding guard. And he'll get an opportunity. He might get an opportunity to play tackle. I don't see that as his future. But I believe in him, and I think he's going to be a good pro.
We're talking to Daniel Jeremiah. Daniel, let me go to Josh Jacobs, because we got three guys from Alabama, Quintin Williams, Jonah Williams, and Josh Jacobs, going to Nashville to be attendees for the NFL draft. When you look at Josh Jacobs, what do you see in this young man?
Well, I see a lot of what I saw from Sony Michel. When you just look at his style and the way he plays, he explodes into contact. He's got some wiggle. He can make you miss. He's a good route runner. I think the guy can do everything. Now, he just didn't. They chose not to feed him a ton there in that offense, and it's hard to blame him when you go there and visit with everybody. As I'm sure you guys all have. It's like we're beating the brakes off everybody. We're up by 50 points on all these teams. It's hard to say, okay, we're going to switch it up and trot Josh out there with the starters, but when it ended up being crunch time and they found themselves in competitive games, Georgia, Oklahoma, that's who they trusted, and that's where the ball went, and I thought he delivered. So I look at him, and I see a complete back, and trust me, it flies in the face of all the analytics crowd because the numbers and the production aren't there. But what I know about the kid and what I've seen with my own eyes, I'm going to trust that.
Well, I think the one thing that you got to calculate, and I love a great story, and you think about the University of Alabama 2 weeks prior, he didn't have an offer. He comes in, you don't have the 5-star status, you got to get respect, and he runs like he's running for his life every single play. You go to practice, it's the same intensity. Josh Jacobs is just one of those that, it's kind of like a storybook ending or obviously we're in the middle of the chapter going to the NFL.
Yeah.
But it's just fun to get those inspiring stories when you talk about Josh Jacobs.
I just believe in the kid, and I've heard all the stories that you're referencing and what the hardship he's been through in his life. And I was talking with an executive from a team the other day, and he said, "You want to bet against that kid?" He said, "I'll go ahead and bet on that kid." I believe in him, and I think he's tremendously talented, and I just don't think he's somebody that's gonna take no for an answer. I think he's gonna find a way to be a really good player.
When you look at Quintin Williams, 162 snaps the previous year, we know the Outland success, but when you look at Quintin Williams, is there a part of his game that you question? Is it lack of experience, or have you seen enough that you can look at him and say, this is a big-time player in the National Football League?
Yeah, I've seen enough. I know you added the weight and being able to kick inside. That was something that he had to do, and he had to wait his turn. But golly, I mean, every single game he turned on, he dominates. I mean, he just double team, triple team. It doesn't matter. He finds a way to be disruptive. I had heard the narrative, "Oh, he didn't play good against Clemson," and I went, "Wait a second, let me go back and rewatch that because I thought he did." I go back and watch it again. He's got tackles for loss. He's in the backfield the whole first half. And I thought he played pretty well in that game. So, consistently dominant player. And then when you get a chance to be around him, this guy looks like he's 15 years old. He's not even scratching the surface of how big and strong he's going to be. I mean, I think the best is yet to come, and he's already pretty special.
Daniel, when you look at this upcoming NFL draft, is this a weaker group in this area, strength in this group? As you're trying to project this entire NFL draft, where is the weaknesses, where's the strengths for this upcoming 2019 draft?
Well, I don't look strength-wise. I think the overall depth of the defensive front is really good. I think the tight end class is really, really strong. I do not think it's the best quarterback group we've ever seen. I know we're going to have some guys go, but I don't see a bunch of really big-time dudes. And then when I look at the inside linebacker position, there's two guys, and then there's a big drop-off for me. Running back, Josh, is the only one I have in the first round. So it's not a balanced draft. Last year's group, I thought overall, top to bottom, was better and had more depth at several positions. So this year, to me, if you want a defensive lineman, you're going to love this draft. I think it's a pretty good group of interior offensive linemen as well. But man, it's skill position wise in terms of a top 10 running back, top 10 receiver. I think you'd be a little bit disappointed.
What do you see in Mack Wilson here? Because a lot of projections early on that maybe he was a guy that would slip in the first. As things have kind of go through the mock drafts, so we try to project. What do you see in Mack Wilson?
Well, he was somebody, when you watch him early in the year, I was excited about him, especially with what he did in coverage. With the NFL being such a passing league, I thought you could see his athleticism. Made some plays there in coverage. But then the more you watch throughout the year, I thought he regressed a little bit. He was inconsistent. I thought he got stuck on blocks. I thought he struggled to find the ball a little bit. And then in the postseason, didn't run as well as you'd hope. So I think it's fair to say that from where he started in the process, he's taken on a little bit of water. I think he's probably more in that late second, early third round range is probably where he ends up.
And then when you look at a guy like Damian Harris, what do you see in him?
Steady. You know exactly what you're buying. I think he'll go in the second round. I think he's a good back. I have him as I think he's my fourth running back. I have it with Josh as my top guy, Montgomery from Iowa State at number 2, Miles Sanders from Penn State at 3, and then Damian Harris at 4. So traditionally we see 5 running backs go over the first and second round. If you look at the last 10 years. So to me, that puts him right in that mix. I do expect him to hear his name called on the second night.
Daniel, was Nick Saban correct when you listen to the audio? And I don't know if you've had a chance to cover some of this. I'm sure that you've probably been asked about it. But Saturday inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, he was asked about the NFL and too many guys going out for the NFL draft and too many guys that are later projections, guys that, he's always sort of given his blessings for the first round, possibly second round for running backs. But it seems like more and more, a lot more players later projections are coming out for the NFL draft. Does Nick Saban have a point here?
I think he does. Look, I've always, I go to speak at a lot of these schools, talk to their team, and we talk about things like this. And, the NFL is not a developmental league. I mean, there's a reason why they've tried, the AAF. It didn't work, but they tried that. They're going to try the XFL because there's a need there for development. And that development is taking place on the college field. It's taking place in college games. You get to the NFL, if you're not a starter, once the season starts, you're working off of a card. You're on the look team. You're not going to get any better. So if you have holes in your game and you need to improve, you're not going to improve playing off of a card at an NFL practice. You can improve when you're a starter at a Power 5 school and you're playing in the game each and every week against good players and getting good coaching, and you got a chance to get better. So I think that the line that's been fed to a lot of these guys is, hey, you make your money in your NFL and that's the contract. So even if you're going to be a 4th or a 5th round pick, You come in here, you get through those 3 or 4 years, and then you can get some money. So that's the line that's been fed to them, but I don't think that they take into account the fact that if you need to improve and get better as a football player, it's hard to get in the NFL if you're not playing.
We're talking to Daniel Jeremiah. He's the NFL Network analyst. You can follow him on the Twitter account at Move the Sticks. At Move the Sticks, NFL Network's going to provide live coverage of the 2019 NFL Draft from Nashville, April the 25th through the 27th. Daniel, let me ask, we're moving the NFL Draft to different spots. I mean, like I would have never had a chance to cover the NFL Draft. This is my first experience to be able to go inside that. You think it's a good idea that the NFL's moved it around these different cities and kind of get more cities involved?
Yeah, I was a little skeptical at first because it just had such a history there. Radio City, New York. It was like, man, that one draft. Madison Garden before that, but it was a New York event, and then they said they're going to take this thing on the road, and I don't know how this is going to go. And then we got to Chicago for that first year, and I think we ended up having a couple 100,000 people out in the pavilion there when we were on day 3 on Saturday, and I thought, okay, I guess this kind of is a big deal. People do care about this. So we go back to Chicago for a second year. Then the next year we go to Philadelphia, and they took it to a whole new level, as you can imagine, with the rabid fan base they have there. And then last year was in Dallas, and now we're off to Nashville. So I actually love it. I think it's fun to be in different parts of the country and give different fan bases an opportunity to come experience the event. In the NFL, if they know anything, they know how to put on an event, and it's like the spring Super Bowl. So I dig it. I like the fact that we decided to take it on the road.
Daniel, when you see Tua Tagovailoa, what do you see in a quarterback? We're not really accustomed to having a lot of big-time game-changer type quarterbacks that can kind of obviously, A.J. McCarron was a historic player here in Tuscaloosa, won a couple of championships, won 3, 1 as a backup, 2 as a starter. But we're trying to adjust to a Nick Saban quarterback that just puts it anywhere on the field and could make all the throws. What do you see in Tua Tagovailoa?
Well, I get asked a lot, when you're evaluating quarterbacks, what are the 3 most important traits? And for me, just over the years, looking at the mistakes that you make and the ones you get right, I kind of narrowed it down. To me, it comes down to, first of all, poise, then decision-making, and then accuracy. Those are the 3 important factors. And I haven't done a deep dive on Tua. I've been around him. I got a chance to meet him at the Elite 11 last year, watched him throw there, and, just seeing his tape when you're doing other guys. He sure does seem to check those 3 boxes in a big way. He is tremendously poised. The decision-making, he's safe with the football. He can throw with anticipation and accuracy, and those are kind of the building blocks for a great quarterback. So he seems to have everything. I'm anxious once we get through this year's group to dive in and take a look at him over the summer. But man, he's fun to watch. When you're doing other guys, you can't take your eyes off him.
Do you feel like that he could be the top pick in 2020? I mean, if he continues to develop his game?
Yeah, it's going to be a fun race. There's always guys that come out of left field, but in terms of on the radar, right now you've got him and Justin Herbert, and Herbert is a freak show. I mean, he is 6'5", 250 pounds. He's going to run in the 4.4s or 4.5s. He's a specimen. So his tape was a little bit inconsistent last year. I did him under the assumption he would come out. He's got some work to do. But those are the 2 names right at the top of the list right now, and we'll see who else jumps in the mix.
Final couple of questions. Let me ask you about Ross Pierce-Baker. Certainly a go-to guy for us, been an anchor here, wonderful leader, and I know we kind of developed this Bama bias a little bit. But when you see Ross Pierce-Baker, what do you see as an NFL player?
Well, to me, I saw somebody that's more of a late-round pick. He has played a lot of football there. They love him at the school, as you can imagine. They rave about his leadership. The Senior Bowl was a little bit rough on him just because the one-on-one environment, he had a little bit of some limitations there that showed up, and that hurt him a little bit. But I think he's somebody who's better in a team atmosphere than he's going to be in any kind of a one-on-one setup. So I think he'll probably hear his name called, and my guess would be probably the 5th round, maybe finds his way into the 4th, but I would say probably in that 5th round range, and he'll have a chance to come in there and compete and make a team. Who knows? Maybe ends up starting down the line, but he's everything you want from a character and intangible standpoint, without question.
Christian Miller. Final question. Christian Miller.
Yeah.
Somebody that.
Yeah, he's interesting. He is definitely interesting. I need to go back and double check. Was he able to work out at the second pro day?
I did. Well, that was not an open to the media event, so we didn't have the access that maybe some of the scouts were able to do.
Yeah, I'll go back and I'll go double check that and find out about him. But man, I know that's what you want getting off the bus. He is pretty and he plays hard. So he's somebody that's I kind of have him pulling up my grade sheet right here. I kind of have him in that third, fourth round range. So we'll see. We'll see how he ends up doing. But I know one thing: he's got some shock in his hands, and that dude plays hard.
Hey, listen. All I said is you watch Alabama from the first 14 games, and then you take him out of the game in Santa Clara. Trevor Lawrence was back there eating a sandwich. I mean, we could not get any pressure on him. So by that alone, his stock should be increased because we couldn't find a way to put
his greatest game was the one that didn't play.
Sure,
I love it.
Sure. Well, listen, Daniel, thank you so much, man. I feel like that I've interviewed your father. I'm a huge fan of what he's able to do. And every time I hear your voice and you answer these questions, I feel like I'm talking to David Jeremiah. I mean, I'm going to ask you to promote Turning Point before we get out of here, man. But
I think he's in New York. I think he's doing a big rally in New York. He's still got time to catch a flight. Maybe get up there and see him.
Well, listen, he's an awesome guy, and I'm sure it was great to have him as a father, the guidance.
He is the best. Very, very blessed to have him as a father, no doubt.
Well, and he's been to Tuscaloosa. He's got some connections here. He's been to T-Town a couple of times and with some of the people in the athletic department and done some speaking engagement. But like I said, every time I was asking you a question, I could almost hear the David Jeremiah voice as you were answering the question. So I feel like I was almost talking to your dad a little bit there. So
I just need that. This could be your Turning Point jingle in the background, and then I would have had you.
Thank you. Hey, no doubt. Listen, it's been an absolute treat to be able to talk with you. Thank you for making time for us here in Tuscaloosa. We appreciate the conversation.
You guys have a great day. We'll catch up soon.